Hi there, thanks for joining me. This is the full moon forecast for November 2025. We're going to have a full moon in the constellation of Aries, and it'll be on November 5th at 5:19 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. So this is quite a powerful full moon that we're building up to right now as I'm recording this. If we look at the last couple of months since we entered eclipse season in September, that began the Pisces Virgo emphasis around paying more attention to our own healing and also being able to let go, being able to surrender, being able to go with the flow. And we had that for a couple of months, that theme, quite a strong theme. And for this full moon, we're now entering a new cycle. We have the full moon in Aries, and Aries is the beginning of a new cycle. So, in a way, this full moon is ending a lunar cycle. And you can even look back to this time last year and see what was going on in November and December. And you'll get a sense of how things have moved since then and what you've been working on and dealing with and where you're at now as we approach the beginning of a whole new lunar cycle with this full moon in Aries. And we've had a number of things going on this year. The one that I want to talk about right now is the Neptune Saturn conjunction in Pisces that's been going on all year, and that will reach a total conjunction next year in the middle of February. But this has sort of been a theme this year, along with all the other planets and what they're doing, but it's a pretty major theme to have Saturn and Pisces doing this dance together. And what I've seen unfolding through this process in myself and also in others is that we've sort of been in this whole year in a process of looking at our relationship to our spirituality, Neptune, our soul, what we feel, who we feel we are, in relation to Saturn, the world, tradition, ideologies, and belief systems. Those two things have been undergoing a lot of transformation. And it's actually a really beautiful opportunity to bring them together, where we don't have to sacrifice one for the other. We don't have to sacrifice our soul for the world, and we don't have to sacrifice the world for our soul in order to feel like we're able to live from our soul. But what Saturn contributes to us is discipline. And you could see this joining of Saturn and Neptune as cultivating spiritual discipline and also bringing spirituality into our physical lives, our soul into our physical lives. So that's been going on all year. And I feel this moon being in the seventh house of relationships and being in Aries is sort of speaking to us that there's an ending of this, a culmination of this long cycle, not just to do with Saturn and Neptune, but to do with our emotional experience over the last year. Because across from that, we have the first house. Whenever you're looking at the seventh house, the house of relationships. And opposite to that is the first house, which is the house of our individuality, you could say. And there's always a dance between being true to yourself and being true to others. So this whole theme has been, I feel, going on this year along with other themes, but this one in particular right now is being brought into illumination with this full moon here in the 7th house of relationships. And we also have Venus, who's the ruler of the 7th house, in the 1st house of Aries. So there's a very nice sort of mirroring going on where we can bring more love to ourselves, to our own experience, to our own individuality. And we also have the sun there in the 1st house, just entered into Libra, which is also ruled by Venus and is very connected to the 7th house. We also have Chiron in the 7th house there with the moon, which speaks to our healing journey. And so I feel one of the major themes for this full moon is really reaching a completion in a healing process that has to do with relationships and aloneness, togetherness and freedom, love and freedom. And those two things, finding a new path forward with that, where we're able to bring our soul experience of who we are into our relationships without losing our sense of who we are in relationship. Because that's always the danger with polarities, is that you can go too much into one polarity and then you lose contact with the other. And with astrology, to me, the whole reason that I tune into the cosmic vibrations and listen to the messages from the cosmos is because it helps me to understand the energies that I'm working with instinctively and intuitively, and to find the middle, to find more balance. And Libra is very much about balance. So as the sun is just entering Libra here in the 1st house, it will be about tuning into our balance. How do we feel? Do we feel out of balance in any area? And specifically, do we feel out of balance in relationships where we're giving too much, or we're spending too much time focused on the other and not enough time tuning into ourselves and being aware of our own emotional needs? Because if we're not aware of our own emotional needs, and we're unconsciously looking for them in the other, that's going to create stress, because the other cannot know our deepest emotional needs unless we know and communicate that and express that. And we have Mercury here in Scorpio in the 2nd house, opposite to Uranus in Taurus in the 8th house. So there may be quite a lot of conversation going on around the world, material possessions, our home. There may be a lot going on in that area that we need to communicate about, our own personal needs in relation to the needs of the other. And with Mars there, just at the end of Libra, just about to enter into Scorpio, we're still dealing with our energy being focused on relationships, because Mars is about our yang energy, our male energy, our active energy. And it's been doing this dance with Mercury where we have had things to say about our experience in relating. And that's going to continue as Mars enters Scorpio. It'll be there with Mercury. We'll be able to access more of the deeper levels of our experience and what we want to express as Mars gets closer to Mercury. But we have quite a strong setup here with Jupiter up there at the top in Gemini, approaching Cancer, and he's in the 9th house. So we do have a lot of support to learn, to be open to learn, more spiritual understanding that will help us in this dance between the polarity of being able to be alone and to know how we are and what we're feeling, and being able to be with others and share and enjoy. So Jupiter is sort of, I feel, an important key here, that there's spiritual information available to learn to help us to reclaim our balance in this area as the sun is moving into Libra. And Jupiter is square to Venus, and Venus is square to Pluto. So there's an energy flow here that's going to be triggering us in a process of really seeing the deeper levels, seeing the deeper levels, and Pluto in Capricorn, around our belief systems and the traditions that we've been taught about love and about relating to the other. Being able to see that more clearly, that's going to be activated by this Pluto-Venus-Jupiter square energy, this flow of energy, where we will be able to see the ways in which we don't love ourselves because of our programming and ideas and beliefs, and bring in new ones through Jupiter. Get in contact with our own unique understanding of life, rather than following traditions and beliefs that we may not resonate with. So at this time that could come up, and that could also be an issue in relationships, where you have a different way of viewing the world, a different way of viewing love and intimacy and relating, and that could create conflict, it could create discord. And so the advice here from the organization of the planets and the energies that are coming down right now is that if we can be open to seeing our own unique interpretation and our own programming, and also see that with the other, if we can stay open to seeing both sides and to recognizing that we have all absorbed ideas and beliefs and traditions that may not be true to who we are. And that's part of the process here. Being alive, being on Earth, is to be able to use our awareness and our own instinctive connection as waves in this ocean of reality, that we are connected, we are all connected, and that we're all interdependent. Everything in life is interdependent. And so it's not about being on one extreme or the other. It's about being in the middle and finding your own unique balance between your own individual experience and the experience of the other and the world. But there is a lot of energy here focused around the deeper levels of the programming that we have undergone in our lives, that we're still carrying, that's operating in the unconscious, that we may not be aware of. And if relationship is anything, it's a mirror. And that's what we have going on here between the first house, with the Sun and Venus there, mirroring over to the seventh house of the other, with the Moon and Chiron. So a lot of healing potential here between you and yourself, and between you and the other, and you and the world. And with the full moon being in Aries, it's going to be starting a new cycle of that whole subject, that whole process. We also have the South Node in Leo here in the 11th house, which again is bringing in this theme of becoming conscious of ideas and belief systems in relation to our place in the bigger picture of the world. And on the opposite there, we have the North Node in Aquarius, in the 5th house of our most intimate creativity, love, romance, children. So you may see that your expression in the world, Leo, your creative expression in the world in the 11th house, is showing you patterns from the past that may not be relevant to who you are anymore. Because the South Node is, to me, it's areas from the past where we have experienced certain patterns of behavior and they're still in the unconscious, and they can come up and we're not totally aware of them, and they can be operating underneath. And the movement then is towards the North Node here, which is in the 5th house. So expressing our love and our creativity in the world in a very personal way, and getting more comfortable with that, maybe sharing ourselves in a more personal way. And also with the South Node in the 11th house, we can have gifts and talents that we had from past lives that we cultivated in society, that we shared in the world, that may come into play around this full moon. So, but for me, the main theme here is the 1st house, 7th house polarity of just self and other, and finding that balance where you're not sacrificing on either side, and where you're open to the other's experience and have respect and honor for the other's freedom to be who they are. Because we're not here to fulfill each other's needs. We're here to share ourselves with each other. And we can't do that if we're not aware of our own needs and meeting our own needs. And then we can come together with the other and we can share that with them and help them to be aware of where we're at and what's going on with us, which they're not going to understand unless we can communicate that. And at the same time be able to listen to what they have to share about their needs and their experiences. But there's a lot of very positive, supportive energy here with the trines between Jupiter and Mars, and also down to Pluto and over to Saturn, Neptune. So there's a beautiful flow of energy here if we can be open to new information, if we can be open to going deeper and to being honest with ourselves about what we're feeling, the deeper layers, Pluto, of what we're feeling. And Pluto's here in the 4th house, so this could have, this full moon could also have a lot to do with what's going on in family dynamics and in the home. And he's right here on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn, and he's been here for a while since he went direct in October, the middle of October. And because Pluto moves so slowly, he's sort of just sitting here on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn, getting ready to really move into Capricorn. So we're still integrating truths that we have discovered from the last number of years. And it could also be related to the family. Truths that we've discovered about ourselves, about the other, and there is a deep movement here with Pluto into also seeing the internal and external structures that are outdated for us, that are not working, that need to be allowed to be dissolved so that a new structure can come in that's more balanced and more true to who we are now, as opposed to something that was set up in the past that may have been working up to a certain point, but at this time is in transition. There's a lot of transitional energy here with Pluto on the cusp. And my sense is that after this full moon, we're going to see, when the moon starts to move into Taurus, and in the next few days, 2 or 3 days after that, it's going to hit Jupiter up there in Gemini. We're going to start to see more expansive energy coming in, and more opening, more clarity coming in. And, you know, with the full moon, the energy is building right now. So it's building this intensity. And then once the full moon occurs on the 5th, and then it starts waning after that, the energy will start to relax more, and we might have more clarity about what we've been working with and the process that we've been in during this last, actually, couple of months since we went through eclipse season. But also the ascendant is still here in Virgo next to Venus in Virgo. So the theme of loving and healing ourselves is still in play here. And with Venus in the first house, I would say that, you know, we may naturally be giving attention to our appearance. You know, there may be changes that need to happen there. We may have a new sense of who we are that wants to be expressed physically, and also wants to be expressed through our routines and our habits and our relationship to the physical, practical life that we're all living here. And it's beautiful to have Venus here next to the ascendant. It's giving us the support that we need to love ourselves. And it's only if you love yourself that you can really be in relating with others, because you have that connection to who you are. You have yourself. You have that love for yourself that no one else can do for you. Only you can love yourself. And then you have something to bring into the relationship or to the other without losing that. Being able to stay connected with your own love and respect for who you are, and at the same time be receptive enough to receive the other as they are. And there's a lot of theme of acceptance in this full moon, self-acceptance and acceptance of others. And when we can find that, then we can relax and then we can see the truth of situations that's self-evident, that we're not able to see when we're caught in psychological processes that we've been taught or that are related to traditions or society that are not our own direct experience. We can navigate that and see what's true for us and what's not true for us. And then stay true to ourselves, stay true to our own soul with that Neptune-Saturn energy. And towards the end of November, around the 28th, Saturn is going to go direct. And then Neptune will go direct in the middle of December. But with Saturn going direct at the end of November, we'll notice if there hasn't been a lot of forward momentum in the physical world for us, that may start to move forward at that point. That this has been a very, with all the planets retrograde pretty much, except for Jupiter, the outer planets, for the last number of months, it's been a very deep internal process that has really been focused on our own healing. And as the planets start to come out of retrograde, specifically Saturn and Neptune, we're going to see things start to manifest. And we'll find more balance in the fact that we are human, Saturn beings, Neptune. We're both. That we have a body, we have our experiences in this world, we have the practical daily life, and we have our soul and our infinite connection to the mystery of life and the invisible realms and our intuition and our psychic senses and our guidance. And those two things operate really well together. In the world, the material world has taken much more of our time and energy and has been given much more importance in Western society than the soul. And that's what I feel this conjunction of Saturn and Neptune is about. It's about bringing that into balance, that we can have our spiritual soul experience of life and we can have the material, physical, human experience of life. And in fact, only when we have both are we whole, because everything in life, in the physical reality, has a polarity, but it's also part of the same energy at the same time. And when you can be in the middle with those two energies, you get the benefit and the synthesis of both of them coming together, and that's what makes it whole. Then you have a whole experience of yourself and a whole experience of reality. And that's the process we've been in all year with this conjunction. So this full moon is bringing that specific chapter to an end. And it's embarking us on the next phase of the journey, which will be leading us to the actual conjunction of Neptune and Saturn next year, where we will start to see the physical manifestations of the work that we've been doing creatively, emotionally, spiritually, physically over the last year start to show up more clearly. So enjoy this beautiful full moon. I hope you get to see it. And until the next time, thanks so much for joining me, sending lots of love out there to whoever is listening to this right now.